Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called How Empaths and HSPs Can Be Seen and Heard Through Authentic Expression. Overcome anxiety and self-consciousness to step into your true power and presence. My name is Stephen Dynam, the founder and president of the Shift Network. And one of the things that I've evolved into over the course of growing Shift Network is understanding that my own sensitivities and how that actually creates certain things that I have to work with to bring out my voice and the voice of other people in a way that really leads people to grow and change and evolve. And what I've learned is that a lot of people in the Shift Network are more sensitive, that's part of what leads us into a spiritual path and leads us to the inner worlds that need to unfold to grow into our full potential. So we'll get to explore how if you identify as a more sensitive person or an HSP, how you can really use that as a catalyst for bringing your voice for really fully into the world in a way that really impacts and moves other people and helps heal others as well. So we're going to get to explore with Catherine Andrews. She's a life, spiritual, and leadership coach with deep expertise in this area, and I think you're going to really enjoy yourself. And if you want to go further with Catherine, we're going to have a great opportunity to do so in a brand new course called How to Be Seen and Heard as an Empath or HSP. And we'll share more about that towards the end of the hour. So, Catherine, with that said, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Great. Well, let's dive in. And I like to start with your journey because it's really the seed bed out of which all the teachings that you're going to offer grow. So, what propelled you to really understand the deeper dynamics of being an empath and HSP and how to still come out with authentic expression?
Yeah, well, if you told me that I would be teaching a course on visibility and authentic expression for highly sensitive people when I was a kid or even 10 years ago, I would have not believed you because I was always the shyest person in the room. When I was a kid, I was the kind of kid where teachers at conferences said to my parents, she's doing well, but she never participates. And that continued when I went into college and into the corporate world. I was very scared to share my voice. I was scared to share my ideas and opinions. Intuitively, something about it just didn't feel safe to me. So I preferred to stay in the background, behind the scenes, doing good work, but not really letting myself truly be seen. Now, as happens for many people, life sort of unfolded and I felt called to a higher purpose. So, about 20 years into my corporate career, I realized that I was being called to be more of a mentor, a guide, a teacher, and a life coach, and share my own spiritual awakening and teachings. I also realized I identified as a highly sensitive person and an empath. So, I delved deep into the research from an energetic perspective about visibility, an ancestral perspective, from a nervous system perspective. And I synthesized everything that I learned and applied it to myself as I stepped forward into my career as a life coach, a leadership coach, and a mentor for highly sensitive people. And today I speak to thousands of people. I've worked with hundreds of clients, I've taught courses with hundreds of students, and I speak to thousands of people across my social media. And it's because of the tactics that I've learned that I had to learn for myself, for my own visibility, my own authentic expression, that I'm here today and able to show up authentically as a highly sensitive person and an empath.
Mhm.
And this is what I'm going to synthesize and teach in my upcoming course and hopefully talk about today to help people understand you can be a highly sensitive person. You can be an empath. You can be somebody who maybe feels a little more introverted, a little more shy. And that's okay. That's part of your gift. But it doesn't mean you don't get to have authentic expression. It doesn't mean it's not safe to be visible. You are allowed to shine your light. You will be able to. And that's really important for me to share with the world.
It's great. Well, thanks for sharing your journey and also being willing to go through that transformation yourself. So safety, obviously, you brought it up a couple times. That's often underpinning the sense of like, oh, don't want to put yourself too far out there, partially because the world can be a harsh place and there's a lot of, combative energies, judgmental energies, a lot of things out there that you just kind of want to pull back from. And I can understand that impulse myself. So how do you work with that without changing the sensitivity underneath or like having to recognize that there are some challenges just with the public sphere is a little coarser and harsher than probably works for a lot of highly sensitive people.
Absolutely. And it's so important to name that and accept that. It's the reality of the world today. So there's no bypassing that. It can be difficult as a highly sensitive person or an empath who has more sensory processing issues or a more easily dysregulated nervous system. The reality is it can be more challenging for us to step up into our visibility, into our light, and be seen authentically. So I think kind of the first step is just acceptance of that. It takes a little bit more work as a highly sensitive person to feel safe being seen. But when you put in the work, when you understand that this is something that is just, it can ground you, it can root you, and it can allow your light and your gifts to shine, you have this acceptance and you move forward being like, all right, this is something that I want to spend my time on. So, and there's many approaches to doing that. One of the most important ones for me is teaching highly sensitive people about our nervous systems, about the states we get triggered into when we don't feel safe, and how to move out of that lack of safety into something that feels more grounded, more approachable, more regulated.
Well, that
And
sounds like
just
a great
all
place to start then. Like, do you want to dive into the nervous system understanding first?
So, what I found with HSPs is that knowledge is an asset when it comes to your nervous system and how to regulate your nervous system. So, the basic understanding of how the nervous system works for highly sensitive people is crucial because when you have that knowledge, you can use it to inform yourself about your states. So, the first thing that you really want to understand about the nervous system is what triggers you into dysregulation. For every person, this is going to be different. For some people, it might be sensory issues. For some people, it might be the fear of being judged. For some people, it might be certain people, certain circumstances, public speaking, just understanding without shame, without beating yourself up, just noticing with curiosity and compassion.
Hmm.
When do I feel unsafe? What triggers me into overwhelm? And making yourself just a little bit of your own science experiment, observing yourself for a few weeks around these triggers. Then you kind of want to understand, well, what does it look like when I'm being triggered, when I'm being triggered into dysregulation in my nervous system? Do I shut down, right? Do I want to withdraw from the world, not use my voice, isolate for hours? Does it look like I feel very anxious? I feel like, oh, my heart is racing, my breath is increasing, I can't catch my breath, I feel totally out of my body. Does it feel like you want to be critical of other people? You can be triggered into the fight response too. So, generally observing yourself, understanding your nervous system patterns of dysregulation, and just knowing yourself deeply and understanding these things is one of the first steps towards understanding your patterns, your nervous system patterns around visibility.
And I kind of hear underpinning what you're saying is that we often take in some patterns of self-blame that need to be unwound in that we're just sort of understanding it more neutrally rather than like, oh, it should be different.
100%. Thank you so much for bringing that up. This is crucial to my teachings. Self-compassion and self-acceptance of your sensitivity is key here in anything that you do in the world as a highly sensitive person and an empath. I use nature all the time in my teachings, as many teachers and spiritual teachers do, because it is the greatest teacher that we have. And I ask you, as a highly sensitive person, to consider your favorite plant, your favorite flower, something in nature that gives you joy. Think about an orchid. You wouldn't blame the orchid for not thriving in conditions without water or without the right light or without the right soil. You would simply say, this situation, this environment is difficult for this beautiful plant to bloom and to thrive in. And you would understand that if it was given the right nutrients, the right soil, the right amount of light, the exquisite care that it deserved, that it would then naturally bloom. And it is the same for the sensitive person. When we can give ourselves, without self-blame, without judgment, without shame, the conditions that we need to thrive will unnaturally unfold and our light will be able to shine.
Hmm. Yeah, you're taking almost a very scientific, almost gardener kind of approach, just like, oh, what are these conditions that I need, rather than trying to force yourself to change the sort of natural conditions that we thrive in.
Exactly. I think when people think about visibility and self-expression, they picture the person on stage with a mic in hand and they're confidently speaking to thousands of people and they're bringing this certain energy and they're really confident in that visibility and that self-expression and that authenticity. They're not nervous at all. That's not really going to be the case for the highly sensitive person. We're not we don't have to model or try to aim for the stereotype of a confident person that we see portrayed in the media or in social media or around us. We bring our own unique gifts to speaking, to visibility, to authentic expression, and it may not look like what we've been taught it should look like.
Hmm. Let's talk about some of the inner parts that can get activated in this whole. So I know we're going to dive into a whole exercise around protective inner parts. So maybe help us understand like why those protective inner parts are there and how we can work with them in a way that honors them as well.
Yeah, well, parts work is such a powerful thing for the highly sensitive person. So, Stephen, have you ever wanted to do something and not do something at the same time?
Yes.
Right. You may be like, I want to go to that party, but I also want to stay home and not go to that party, right? So you have inside of you conflicting parts, different parts of your psyche, different emotions, who may be at loggerheads with one another about how to proceed. So most of the people I work with are high achieving, highly sensitive, beautiful souls, and they have a desire in their hearts, in their souls, to be more visible in their work, to have more authentic expression, to show up more confidently online or in person. But they also have really strong protective parts who say, I don't know about this. I'm not so sure that this is a good idea. I feel a little uncertain. This feels a little bit dangerous. And so they find themselves stuck around visibility with their heart and their soul wanting to lead them forward, their highest self. But these protective parts who keep them stuck, who say, I don't know if that's safe. So it's kind of a should I, shouldn't I? I don't know about this. And when we work with parts work, we discover with non-judgmental compassion, with just curiosity and awareness, where are these parts inside of us? What do they want? What are they afraid of? Why are some of them keeping us stuck? And when we do this beautiful internal reflective parts work, we can understand these parts better, and they can understand us too. Many of these parts are carrying baggage or old wounding from childhood or earlier experiences that taught them, oh, it's definitely not safe to be seen. And they don't understand perhaps that you've grown and evolved, that you're an adult now, that you're capable and competent and resilient. And so when we can have this exchange, this dialogue between our parts, often the protective parts who have been blocking us from being visible, who have been blocking us from authentic self-expression, they soften. They understand it's now safe to come forward. They transform. They're still there as your protectors. If you need them, you can call on them, but they understand that it's now safe to come forward too.
How important is it to develop like a really specific understanding of each part in order to have this more collaborative relationship with them emerge?
I think it varies for every person. It doesn't need to be necessarily there are these 10 different parts and this one does this and this one does that. Generally, what I see is that there is a young part, and the young part had a wounding around visibility. When this wounding happened around visibility, another protective part was developed, and that protective part's only goal is to keep the young part safe. And so this protective part at all costs will prevent us from being seen because their only duty, their entire mission in life is to keep that wounded younger part safe. So generally there's your highest self who wants to come forward, who has this ability and this desire to be in confident self-expression. Then there is a younger wounded part who is still hurting from the wounding of the past, and then the protective part. So the protective part often looks like, say you're about to post on to social media, or you're about to do public speaking or accept a public speaking invitation. That protective part may self-sabotage you, or it may send you into a spiral wondering before you post on Instagram, I don't think I should post this. What are people going to say? This isn't perfect. We better do this tomorrow. So the protective part, it functions as a very logical part, and it can be very seductive in that way. But its only goal is to keep that younger part safe. So primarily, those are the parts at play when we're talking about this push pull towards visibility.
Hmm. Let's talk a little bit about resistance to visibility as well in the context of working with parts. And so, how do you work with the impulse to be like, oh, you wanted to go out and speak and at this event, but you want to also run away. So finding some sort of way to dance with that resistance.
Yeah, so the resistance is totally normal, and you don't have to force your way through the resistance. That's what I see so many of my clients try to do. They shame the protective or resistant part. They beat themselves up. They say, "Why can't I just do this? This comes so naturally to other people." So, like much of what I've said today, part of it is just acceptance that you have stronger protective parts than many people do because you're a sensitive person. And so, when the wounding happened, it may have landed in you more deeply than it would have in another person. When I think about some of my visibility experiences, they were pretty standard. When I was a kid, for example, I went up to the blackboard and the teacher tried to get me to do a math problem in front of everybody, and I was never good at math. I froze. There was a gentle joke about, my freezing. The teacher, told me to go sit back down. And that is standard. That happens all the time in school and classes and everything's like that. But since I was such a sensitive kid, it landed really deeply. And then it created that resistance for future opportunities. Or, excuse me, it created that resistance around future visibility. I was almost always carrying experiences like that. So the resistance is there. It's totally normal. It's no big deal. We all have it. The goal is to not shame it and to berate it and try to force it away. The goal is to be curious. You could take 5 minutes on your iPhone and type on the Notes app, what does this resistance want to say to me? You could just take a second in a corner of the room, put your hand on your heart, and say, thank you for trying to protect me. But we're safe now, and we're going to do this, and this is how I'm going to keep us safe. So you work with the resistance as an ally in a way.
Hmm. So we've been focusing a little bit more on the psychological parts. So I want to invite you also to just reflect on a little bit on the energy practices, and I know that's part of how you approach this as well.
Absolutely. Working with energy is one of my favorite things, and it was transformative for me as a highly sensitive person and an empath to better understand energy and kind of the energy work that I needed to do in order to become more authentically visible. So, first off, as a highly sensitive person, is understanding that we are carrying many other people's energies in our field, and this can actually block our visibility. Think of it, you're climbing a mountain with a friend or several friends, and you see that they're struggling with the weight of their backpacks. And you say, "Oh, I want to help. I have a big heart. I'll take your backpack. Let's go." Before you know it, you're carrying several different backpacks and they're just running up the mountain. And you're like, why do I feel so weighed down? So, this is energetically what can often happen to the empath and the highly sensitive person. We unconsciously, in many cases, and sometimes consciously, take on other people's energy, which weighs down our aura and leaves us exhausted physically, emotionally. We're kind of spent. Because of that, visibility, authentic self-expression is blocked in our energetic field. We're carrying so many other people's things. We're tired. Our energy field feels heavy. We may not even know who we are. And it's incredibly hard to be, to do authentic self-expression if you're wondering, who am I even? Is this my emotion? Is this somebody else's energy? So one of the first things I always have my clients do is learn the basics of energetic hygiene, releasing, clearing energy from your field. It's very simple. It's just, some visualization, some meditation, and coming back to feel what does it feel like just to sit in my own energy without consciously or unconsciously holding my kids' energy, my husband's energy, my boss's energy, all the energy from the cashier at the grocery store yesterday, right? So when you start to clear that and you start to release some of that energy, your visibility, I find, naturally increases without you having to force it because you're going from somebody, carrying all those backpacks to somebody who has more lightness and space.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's one of the energetic techniques I think is so important.
Well, I love and really resonate with your overall orientation. I know you also want to take some time today to really take us on a guided process so we can get some deeper insights ourselves moving forward. So you want to do that now?
Yeah, I would love to. So what I'm about to run us through is a simple guided visualization. So just invite, if you're here, to get comfortable, close your eyes, and we're going to be accessing some of the parts that Stephen and I have already talked about here. So go ahead. We're going to drop into this visualization to meet our visibility protectors. Make sure you're comfortable. letting your body find a position that feels supported. Let your shoulders soften, your face soften. You can close your eyes or let them rest gently. Take nice, slow breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. Feel the edges of your skin against the air. Where does your skin end and the air begin? Softening into this space. And noticing the solid support under your body. Feeling your feet or seat pressing into that support. You can imagine roots growing from you deep into the earth, connecting you to the steady, ancient strength of the planet. You're safe. Let yourself be present. If it feels good, you can say to yourself, it's safe for me to explore my inner world. It's safe for me to be curious. Now, I invite you to think of a time or bring forward a time, real or imagined, when you wanted to step forward, to be seen, to speak up, to share your truth or gifts. As you picture that moment inside your mind's eye, observe with curious compassion what happens inside of you. Do any sensations arise in your body? Does an image come forward? Do any emotions start to stir? You might feel a contraction, a hesitation. See if you can just put all of your focus and attention on that part, this part of you that may want to hide or stay small. And gently imagine it taking shape. It may appear as an image, perhaps a younger version of you, maybe an animal, a symbol, a color, or really anything else. Whatever you see, sense, or feel is perfect. And know that you're meeting the part of you that may be afraid to be seen. It's the one that may hide, protect, or pull back when visibility feels threatening. Take a breath and say to this part, I see you. Thank you for trying to protect me. I know you've been keeping me safe in the best way you know how. Now, if it feels safe in your mind's eye, ask this part a few gentle questions. What are you afraid would happen if I let myself be seen? Listen carefully to what it says, maybe words, sensations, or images arise. You might hear, people will judge me. They'll leave me. It won't be safe. Or you may notice other physical sensations or images. Whatever comes up, just thank this part for sharing. It's been doing its best to keep you safe. Now ask, what do you need in order to feel safe if I start letting myself be seen? Maybe it needs slowness, reassurance. Trust whatever answer arises. And imagine that you're offering that part exactly what it asked for. If it wanted protection, imagine a radiant shield around you both. If it wanted rest, let it curl up and rest in your arms. As it receives what it needs, Imagine this part beginning to transform. See it growing lighter, stronger, more radiant. It may take a new form, standing tall, glowing with confidence. This is your visibility protector, a transformed or newly emerged energy whose job is to help you shine with safety. It's still protective, but now it protects your light, not your fear. And if your original part isn't ready to transform into this visibility protector, that's okay. Call forward a new part, a different visibility protector who joins your inner team. It might be an ancestor, a warrior of light, your highest self. You can feel its energy, grounded, calm, unshakably loving. Let it step forward, placing a gentle hand on your shoulder or heart. Feel the reassurance in its touch. You are safe to be visible. Your light is needed. You can be seen and stay safe at the same time. Now, take a deep breath and imagine that the energy of this protector, their strength, their calm, their love, imagine it flowing into every cell of your body. Repeat the following affirmations in your mind's eye. My light and my safety can coexist. My authenticity and my protection can walk hand in hand. I am safe to be visible because my light is needed. I have the protection of all I need at my back. When you're ready, bring your attention back to your body as you think all these parts we've interacted with today, the parts that have protected you, the parts that have held fear, the parts that guide you forward with strength and certainty and love. Offer them a quiet thank you. Bring your attention back to your breath, back to this room. Feel the ground beneath you again. Taking another nice deep breath in, exhaling fully. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes, maybe taking a moment to notice or journal what you felt, what shifted, what softened, what strengthened. Remembering this, visibility doesn't mean unsafe exposure. It means allowing your light to be seen with your protector by your side, keeping you safe, steady, and strong. Close with a final breath. And you can come back to the room.
Lovely. Thank you for that. How
You're
do you
welcome.
recommend that we keep building on that in terms of our continue to foster that deeper alliance inside?
Absolutely. Well, first off, whatever arose for anybody, let that be right. Sometimes we come into these visualizations or exercises with expectations. It should have happened like this, or maybe it should have looked like that, or she said that. So, first off, just honor whatever arose. Secondly, journaling and dialoguing with these parts through writing can be a really powerful way to continue the work. So you can pick up your journal and write as if you're writing from one of these parts, sharing their voice. Perhaps it's the younger part or the wounded part or the part who's unsafe about visibility. Channel them. And in your writing, let them say what they're nervous about, what they're scared about, their fears. And then you can dialogue back as your visibility protector, as your higher self, um, reassuring them, comforting them, letting them know the plan. And that dialogue back and forth, whether you do that in your own visualization, I really prefer journaling by hand. I think it's really powerful. That's a way to continue what may have arose for you today.
Hmm. Since you really love the journaling, like how do you, yeah, recommend going deeper with just the really understanding all the different parts and the different patterns that we're working with so that, you're well equipped in going into whatever situation where you're becoming much more visible.
Absolutely. Well, one thing that can be really fun and helpful, actually, too, since we're bringing some childlike energy into discovering these parts, and some of these parts may be young, is giving these parts names. So perhaps your visibility protector showed up as a knight in shining armor, or perhaps it looked like a beautiful tall tree. Um, Giving these parts personality, names, archetypes that come forward for you, and then continuing to dialogue with them, visualizing them in moments of need can be a really nice way to continue to strengthen that relationship with them.
Nice. And so once maybe we can talk a little bit about now when we get to the stage where we're actually going into a situation where we're being more visible or speaking or engaging in a more public format in some way. What are some of the tools and you recommend to kind of keep these awarenesses active and helpful in the moment when things might get more triggered?
Absolutely. Well, in the course, I'll definitely be teaching a series of nervous system exercises. So once you understand your nervous system patterns around visibility, there are ways that I'm going to teach you to discharge that energy or ground that energy. Some simple ones, for example, if you're about to be visible and you're feeling like an overflow of energy in your body, you just want to shake. Like if you can just go to a bathroom stall, find 5 minutes, shaking it out, imagining the energy, the fear, everything kind of coursing out of you can be a really nice way when you're feeling a little bit overcharged, a little bit anxious. You might be in that flight response of the nervous system. Other people might need to do some exercises where they kind of open themselves or they imagine their aura expanding. Highly sensitive people, and this goes back a little bit more to the energy work, we tend to keep our energetic auras, which are just, our energy fields around us. We keep it pretty close to the vest. We're kind of like shut down like this. And so our auras will often be broadcasting this message, don't look at me. I don't want you to look at me. For the love of God, please don't notice me, right? And so when you start to imagine your aura, you start to, do some of the energy work in your field, just simply pushing your aura out, strengthening it with your breath. If you're feeling the edges of your aura and you're like, oh, my aura is like 2 inches beyond me. It's like, okay, well, can you imagine pushing your aura out to a couple of feet beyond you, maybe to 5, 10 feet, and just noticing where that feels good. And that auric expansion is something that you can do in the moment with a quick visualization to also just feel like you have a stronger protection and a stronger field around you.
Really great insights. So helpful, Catherine. So, yeah, so I think now would be a good time to talk more explicitly about your upcoming course because it's such a great opportunity to learn all these tools and perspectives that you've gathered and applied successfully in your own life and the lives of many people you coach and teach. So, we're blessed that Catherine's offering a full groundbreaking course. It's called How to Be Seen and Heard as an Empath or HSP, a guide to courageously sharing your gifts with power and presence. So you can find it at the URL sensitiveandseen.com, sensitiveandseen.com. It's a 7-week program. You don't have to have any particular background, just a recognition that this is good medicine for you in the moment. And so, Catherine, I'd love for you to share some of your intentions for what people will come away with, and then we can go through the modules and give a tour of what you'll be teaching.
Absolutely. My number one intention for any highly sensitive person, empath, taking this course is to feel safe in who you are. It is safe to be you. Your authenticity and your energy, the world needs it. And maybe at some point in life, you learned it wasn't safe, it was dangerous, or people would say things about you or think things about you. My number one intention for this course is for you to walk away feeling absolutely grounded and safe in who you are. Now, that may have ramifications like, yeah, you can show up online more easily, or if you've been thinking about stepping into starting a business or speaking more publicly to share your gifts, that's beautiful. And I want that for you too. But I want you to feel safe everywhere. I want you to feel safe in the school drop-off line with the other moms to share what's on your mind. I want you to feel safe with family members, expressing your needs in relationships. I want you to feel safe with your own company, right? So safety for me and knowing that you're safe and that you're divine is my number one intention.
Beautiful. Module 1 is called Energetic Protection Strategies to Feel Safe in Your Body and Energy Field.
Yes. So I love this one. We're going to start off with some beautiful, fun things. So we are going to do some of the energy work that I referenced early in this presentation. So we're going to talk about auric expansion, releasing energy, how to clear energy, how to make sure your aura is big and bright and strong. We're also going to be talking about amulets, protective trinkets that you can put on your body and around you that signal to your subconscious it's now time to be safe. You can almost think of them as putting on a little bit of visibility armor. For example, one of the amulets I have is this ring that I've owned for 25 years. Whenever I'm going to do something where I feel I need to be safe, I want to feel grounded and powerful in what I'm doing, I place this ring on and it carries that energy for me.
I love that. Brings in a little bit of the magical, you know, Dungeons and Dragons. You've got magical amulets for
A
different
hundred
purposes.
percent. And it's so true. You know, it sounds a little silly, right? You're like, well, what am I, a little kid playing dress up? But the subconscious like ability of these amulets, when you place an intention on an inanimate object, this necklace is another one that I have. When you designate them with a duty, with a job for you, and then you place them on, you're like, I feel pretty good. It signals a shift to your subconscious that you're stepping into a new way of being.
Module 2 is called Understand Your Body's Unique Stress Patterns so you can regulate your nervous system for safety.
Yes. So this is where we're going to go deep into the highly sensitive person and empath's nervous system that we've been referencing throughout this presentation today. I'm going to help you understand the basic patterns of dysregulation and regulation as a highly sensitive person. We're going to track what happens most commonly for you when it comes to authentic self-expression and visibility. And then you're going to have tools to regulate yourself. So whether you tend to go into fight, fawn, or flight. Fawn is that people-pleasing nervous system response. I'm going to give you particular strategies for each that are going to regulate you out of those particular states that might keep you stuck and bring you back into regulation, into safety, into just a totally grounded way of being. We're also going to go over what I call nervous system hygiene, which are the basic nervous system practices that I teach all of my clients to do on a daily basis. Because the reality is, as a highly sensitive person, you're going to have to tend quite regularly to your nervous system. I think of it as the equivalent of, brushing your teeth. So I teach you very short routines that you can easily incorporate into your day to ground and settle your nervous system on a regular basis so that over time, your nervous system just becomes so much more solid.
Module 3, Feng Shui Principles for Magnetic Presence.
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite ones, and I am exhibiting one of these principles. So, feng shui is a form of energy work that I'm trained in. And of course, I'm sure so many people have heard of it and maybe taken beautiful classes on it. I love to work with feng shui for visibility, which is working with the environment of your home and your physical space to encourage visibility. The kind of feng shui that I'm trained in has a particular area in your home called the fame and visibility area. And by looking at this area of your home, we can discover what kind of subconscious blocks might be existing in your mind because your home, your office, any physical space you're in is simply, to me, an energetic projection into the material world of your subconscious. So when we look at the fame and the visibility area, we start to understand from the outside in what might be blocking you. So I've had so many people who have broken lights in their fame and visibility area, or they have piles of clutter in that area, or they have a door that just won't open all the way. So when we start to look at your home and your space through kind of feng shui eyes, and particularly the fame and visibility space, we can shift those areas that are going, and by shifting those areas, that's going to bring you internally more safety. I also talk about this is the position I'm in, command position, which is a position where you have your back to a wall and you're able to see the door of the room that you're sitting in. This position is also, you call it command position. It's kind of like a stereotypical mob boss. He's sitting with his back to the room. He can survey everybody in front of him. It really helps settle your nervous system. So there's actually like a scientific basis to how this makes you feel more calm and grounded and easier to feel more visible when you feel that way. But it's also called facing your life. It's the metaphorical energy of putting yourself in command position. You take up space. You face what's in front of you. And that has powerful shifts for your subconscious too.
Very cool. Module 4, meet your inner allies. Parts work to transform your inner voices that resist visibility.
Yeah, and I think we have just done such a beautiful job. Your questions today have really helped me hopefully explain some of the power of parts work. So we're going to go a lot deeper into parts work in the course. We're going to be doing exercises to find your specific parts that are keeping you stuck around visibility through guided meditation, journaling exercises, sharing in the community, and getting to know these parts a little bit better. My goal is to gently help you transform them into these allies so they can shed the wounding and the baggage of whatever reason they think it's not safe to be seen. And they can go from that scared small part or that protective part that says, I won't let anybody see you, it's not safe, into allies that say, we have your back. So you'll have this beautiful team of parts that are still with you. They can still be protective, but they're more of an empowering team now. And so you have these parts that'll be at your back, transformed. They've shed a little bit of their wounding and their baggage around visibility, and you'll feel the shift so beautifully when these parts come online.
Module 5, transform triggers and ancestral patterns into presence to step out of the shadows.
Yes. Oh my gosh. As you're going through, I'm like, I love this one and I love this one. This one is so important to me because I tend to work with a lot of clients who have matrilineal ancestral wounds, meaning that there are ancestral wounds about visibility that come through the lineage of their mother. So, what we're going to be doing is understanding and reflecting upon all of our ancestors on both sides and what did they think about visibility, right? I know that one of the most common things my mom has always said to me growing up, don't rock the boat. And she learned that from her mother, who learned that from her mother. And so I was imbued with this sense of, for the women in my family, oh, we better not rock the boat. We better not be seen. So this is an inherited ancestral belief that I've been carrying into my lifetime. And I believe that many of the people that I work with, many of the people on the planet right now, are ancestral cycle breakers. And so you may have carried a matrilineal wounding around your visibility. Your ancestors may have lived in circumstances where it truly wasn't safe to be seen. And so they've developed these beliefs that they've then passed down to you. And of course, so many of us carry the witch wound around visibility, where there are times in history where it truly hasn't been safe to be seen. And sometimes, that still exists today in this world. But for many of us, these outdated ancestral beliefs, we don't have to carry them anymore. And so in this module, we'll be exploring those patterns, those beliefs, what we've inherited, and asking ourselves, do we want to carry this anymore? Connecting with our ancestors, helping them learn what's true now about our lives, what we're ready to do, how we're ready to be more visible, and how we're going to keep ourselves safe doing that is going to be a big part of that lesson.
Important stuff. So thank you. Module 6 then goes into explore the power of your archetype to design your visible self.
Yes, so this is kind of where we get creative and fun. So my background is as a writer and a journalist, and I love doing these exercises where we bring writing and visioning into our personal growth and transformation. So we're going to be understanding through all of the things that we've learned in earlier modules of the course, we're going to be leaving behind a particular archetype. So when I started doing this work, the archetype that I used to have that I understood through my limitations was the quiet librarian. And this was an archetype that I named because it was how I had functioned in life for many, many years. The quiet librarian knew how to fix things, sat behind a big desk, knew how to get information for other people. But I realized that that archetype was holding me back, and I wanted to design and step into a new archetype. And at that time, I created an archetype of the water sprite. And that was somebody who was more into nature, more flowy, more feminine, had more fun in her life. And so when we work with archetypes and designing our own archetypes, we have this it's this beautiful subconscious gift. It gives us this sort of point on the horizon to step into. So if your previous archetype was like me, the quiet librarian, and you're like, I've decided I want my new archetype to be the bold queen, you can ask yourself, well, what would the bold queen do here? How would the bold queen dress? What would she say in the situation? And you get to have fun with it. So much of the self-help and transformation work, God bless it, it is so important, but it gets quite serious. And I'm all about, being serious about this kind of work. I think we're all here on a serious mission, but I want to have some fun with it too. And that's what we're going to do in that particular module.
Playfulness is magnetic as well. So being able to be more playful with our processes is also makes it more enjoyable to do. So great. Module 7 then goes into scale your visibility practices to create your sustainable visibility plan.
Yes. So, this is kind of the what now. We've been working together for 6 or 7 weeks, and of course, the community will continue and, you'll be taking away a lot of learnings and practices. But I'm somebody who really wants to know, what's next? I want to walk out of a course and be like, how can I actually make sure I regularly apply this in my life? So, this is the module where we're going to be creating sustainable personal visibility practices. So I'll be asking people to commit to things 2 or 3 times a week. They can be very small. It's not necessarily about really doing things that still might be, a little bit too big for your nervous system. But it's almost like walking away from the course with a designed plan from a personal trainer, except for your visibility, right? You want to keep this muscle that you've been growing around visibility in good shape. And now that you'll be going on, into the world with what we've learned in the visibility course, the self-expression course, how can you keep consistent to that? So we'll be offering a set of micro visibility practices, just small things. Some of the examples, they sound very silly, but they do work. For example, a micro visibility practice could be a commitment to post a selfie of yourself online just once. Or it could be that you wear bright red in public, right? So these little small practices that we create into a sustainable calendar and set of practices for you to take away that just help you continue strengthening your visibility muscle and apply what we've learned. There's nothing worse. You take a class and you learn so much, and then it's all the tools and the tactics stay dusty on the shelf. I'm on the shelf, excuse me. I'm really about like, let's bring this into real life. Let's make sure you have a plan that you feel confident about to continue to integrate this work.
I love that. I love the long-term commitment and the really making those micro changes that are going to add up to big shifts in your life and visibility. So again, the whole program is laid out in detail at sensitiveandseen.com, sensitiveandseen.com. In addition to the 7 90-minute live sessions, which we've just described, and there's more detail on the page about those at sensitiveandseen.com. You're also going to get recordings of every session, which is great to be able to go back, refresh your memory, to go back to your notes, re-listen in the car, so you have audio as well. You also have word-for-word transcripts to work with, study, and highlight, as well as weekly practices you can engage at home and really build into your weekly and daily practice set. There's also a community group to support you and deepen your experience. And there's a number of extra bonuses that Catherine has been very generous about adding. There's a video workshop called Clearing Shame and Guilt to Feel Safe, Being More Visible. I'll share more about that bonus as well.
Absolutely. So this is a bonus that will incorporate emotional freedom technique tapping, which I'm sure many of the audience knows here, which is a beautiful nervous system regulation technique to help you clear these feelings of who am I to be more visible, or the guilt that may come up when you feel like you're taking up more space. So that will walk you through a set of tapping, a set of journaling, and a set of exercises and questions that are all designed to help you release those feelings because there's nothing to feel shame about when you're being more visible. Your light lights up other people, it inspires other people. But for highly sensitive people who aren't used to taking up a lot of space, conflicting emotions like shame and guilt can often come up. So this is geared towards clearing those.
Super helpful. Great extra bonus. Then there's another bonus that's an audio meditation with Catherine called the Guided Meditation to Remove Blocks to Visibility. Want to share more about that one?
Yeah, so that's a beautiful, simple meditation visualization. You could play it while you're walking, you could play it while you're falling asleep at night. And I induce you into a state where you're able to see and visualize the blocks in your energetic field, like we talked about earlier, that might be holding you back from visibility. And I walk you through a simple process where we identify them, choose to release them, and watch them dissolve. The earth takes them away for us so that you are out there with a beautiful, clear energy field, and these blocks have been removed.
Really great. That's a great second bonus. And then there's a final third bonus that's available when you sign up by midnight tonight Pacific time. We always like to do this as a way to encourage you to take the time now and really tune in and go through the whole page at sensitiveandseen.com and really get a sense if this is the right next step for you while you have the most information. So if you do move forward today, then you're getting a full video workshop with Catherine called How to Heal Your Inner Critic for More Visibility. Obviously, the inner critic can be a tricky thing to navigate in all this, so we want to share more about that special video workshop.
Of course, yes, I really love this one. So we've talked so much about parts and protective parts. The inner critic is like the biggest protective part that we've got out there in terms of highly sensitive people not feeling safe to be authentic or to be seen. And again, it's simply just a protective part. And so this 90-minute workshop it leads us through a variety of exercises. There's journaling prompts, there's group exercises, there's visualizations, and there's a ritual at the end to help your inner critic release any of its fear around your wanting to step into being more visible and connect with the parts of you that want to come forward and let you be seen. So it's one of my favorites.
Great extra bonus and really so timely because the inner critic is often a stumbling block for so many people. And I really appreciate how you approach it as an ally as well. And so, so again, the whole program is laid out in detail at sensitiveandseen.com. We've kept the investment for this course really accessible. It's just three payments of $128, or you can save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $349. The course is going to start on November 12th and run Wednesdays at 1 Pacific, 4 Eastern. And even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, and the community as well. There's some great testimonials on the page about Catherine, holy brilliant space holder, real deal. People just love working with her. So you're in really good hands and you get to harvest the benefit of all of her work at the frontiers of how HSPs and empaths can really show up powerfully, visibly, and safely. So you are, I think, in for a treat and in for some real healing and also develop a real program that you can sustain over years to come. So Catherine, thank you so much for all your work and all your wisdom. Anything that you want to still share with folks who are considering doing the course with you?
I just want folks to know that we all know we're in a moment of change in the world right now. And I deeply believe that sensitive people, highly sensitive people, empaths, have the gift, the light to guide, heal, bring balance forward. And we know we have this gift. We may understand that. And yet we may feel too scared to bring it forward. My hope with this course is that it will give you the tools, the holistic approaches, the community, the teachings that you need right now in this moment of time to let yourself be seen. Every time you let yourself be seen, you're bringing light to the darkness. And that's what this moment is asking of us. And I want to help you do that.
Thank you. Well, it's clear the sincerity and the depth of commitment in you to bring this work forward. And I really agree with you that this moment requires those with more sensitivity to come forward and help heal our world. And that's really the solution to so many of the challenges when we can come into wholeness and depth of understanding and relationship. That's what's going to really bring our world together in a new way. And HSPs and empaths are really central to that. So thank you for bringing this work forward, and thank you all for joining, and look forward to seeing many of you in the upcoming course. And again, it's all at sensitiveandseen.com, and you will get that special bonus on how to heal your inner critic for more visibility when you sign up by midnight tonight. So thank you so much. Many
Thank
blessings.
you.